All right, Toney Freeman, Tony Nicholson.
What's up, Tony Nicholson? What's up, man? How you
Pleasure to
doing?
meet you.
Likewise.
So, we literally just met each other yesterday.
Yeah.
I saw you in Benu's gym working out.
Yeah.
And I went up to this guy and I said, man, this is a guy who is different to everybody else.
Yeah.
And then you told me how old you were. And I was like, but you look 20.
Well, technically, my biological age is in my 20s.
In 20s.
Yeah. I had it tested, and that's what it came back, so.
And so I saw you training. You're super nice to me, super values driven. Then I played a joke on you.
Right.
and,
That's funny.
And I thought, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you had a sense of humor, but like I said, I really would have loved you to join us, though.
Yeah, so I made a joke that I would come and, you sent me an address somewhere.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm here. And then you called me up and said, hey, where are you? Let me find you. I said, no, I'm just joking with you. And you said, you're training today at 3 o'clock. And I was like, can I join you? You said, absolutely. And I knew that when I saw you, Tony, I said, this guy's full of wisdom. There's a difference between people who know the path and walk the path.
Exactly.
And you clearly walk the path.
Yep.
So I thought, wow, I've got to learn from this guy. We just finished an arm workout.
Yep. How'd you like that, by the way?
Man, I'm feeling
Next
it.
level,
I'm brushing my teeth. I'll be feeling
Well, and we use baby weights, basically. I know
weights.
those guys that was looking at us like, why are they
Everyone's
using 20s?
looking, but every guy was looking, saying, wow, these guys are popping. But before we start, you got to tell us a bit about yourself in like 2 minutes. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Okay.
You know.
I was born in South Bend, Indiana, where Notre Dame is, and I'm a
college, right?
Yep, I'm a preacher's kid. My wife's a teacher. I mean, my mother was a teacher. I was in South Bend until I was like 13 years old, and we moved down south. I went to high school, graduated from high school. I graduated about 155 pounds. Then went to college briefly. I thought I was going to be an electronics engineer.
Yeah.
And then the calculus and the trigonometry kicked in, and I was like, I'm out of here. And so I've always known that I was going to be an entrepreneur from 12 years old. I used to shovel snow and cut grass, and I learned how to make money on my own without, having a job. There's nothing wrong with having a job, but what I'm saying is I knew that if I put forth the effort that I could do it. So my whole life I've been an entrepreneur. I think I've had 2 clock-in jobs in my life.
Yeah.
And one of them lasted one day. I was a dishwasher, and we were raised Seventh-day Adventists. And it was a Friday. I worked a whole 8-hour shift, and they was like, "Wow, you're pretty good. Will you work the night shift?" And it was Friday, and I was like, "No, I can't. I got to go home." And so they fired me right then. And the next job, I was a line cook, but all the other stuff, I was a construction worker. So I was always a self-employed construction worker. I hung sheetrock.
What do you think was driving you at that time? What made you so determined to do all that?
While I was doing construction work, I started in high school in 11th grade. So I went to 9th and 10th grade. I went to school in Alabama, and then we moved to Savannah, Georgia. So when I got to Georgia, they said I had almost enough credit to graduate. I just needed like less than 1 year, and I was only in 11th grade. So they divided up my 11th grade and my 12th grade. So 11th grade, I got out of school at 12:30. And in the 12th grade, I got out of school at 10:30. So I worked construction from 11th grade all the way until probably 1993. 92, I'm sorry.
If I'm correct, you're born 1966, August 30th.
Yes.
Boy's done his research.
1966, yes,
sir.
you have. Yes, you have. So I'm doing construction, like I say, from high school, 15 years old, 16 years old. And then when I was, I want to say 18, 19, I moved to Atlanta. And then I ended up marrying my high school sweetheart, or the girl that I had a crush on in high school. She wasn't my sweetheart in high school. I mean, she was my sweetheart, but I wasn't her sweetheart. And so I moved to Atlanta, and we were in a long distance relationship.
Yeah.
So I used to drive to Savannah every Friday when I got off work.
How long was that drive?
It's like 3.5 hours. I used to get off work. I didn't even go home. I just had my stuff in the car already, and finish work and just drive down there and shower and spend the weekend with her and drive back. So, we was talking on the phone a lot, and I used to get in trouble at work talking on the phone. But anyway, so I go to she tells me one day, she said, I met this guy named Tony, and he reminds me of you. And I'm like, whatever. I'm not a jealous guy, so I didn't even.
So you got this Tony, me Tony, okay.
Right? And I didn't think nothing of it. So I go to visit her that weekend or the weekend later, and I'm in her room, and she has these 8x10s, of this really buff, muscular guy that wasn't Arnold Schwarzenegger, because I only thought that was for people on TV. I didn't know any other humans walking around looking like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, baby, who is this? And she was like, oh, that's my friend Tony. I told you I met. And instantly, you know, they say in life you have these life-changing moments.
Yeah.
So I'm staring at this guy's picture, and I'm realizing that this is a real person that's not famous, that actually is this buff, and he knows my fiance, you know, and I don't live in the same city. So I drove home. That was the longest drive ever. I drove home, and next day I joined the gym, and I've been training ever since. It was like,
wow.
It sparked me because, you know, I was really skinny. And at the time I was 162 pounds and just really skinny. I had like 13-inch arms and 22-inch thighs. I was like tall, 6'2", 160 pounds. So
you found your role model, Tony. Did you go meet him at that time or not?
Oh yeah. So we ended up getting married. I moved to Savannah, and Tony and I were workout partners. So he kind of took me under his wing and showed me, you know, a lot of stuff. Before I went to him, I met another guy named Shelbert, and he's the one that kind of jumped me off. But he showed me what I didn't like about bodybuilding. He was the typical, you know, buff. He was like 210 pounds. You know, he outweighed me by 50 pounds. He was super strong. So he took me to the gym and beat me to death, basically. And I was just like, I ain't gonna be able to make it. And so when I got with Tony, it was a little more realistic, you know. And then so back then we had books. So I bought every book that had anything to do with bodybuilding. I mean, I had them stacked to the ceiling almost. And I read every page and tried every workout. The stuff that I felt good with, I kept, and everything else I tossed it out.
How did you know what was tossed out and what you keep?
Just by the way it felt. You know, I've always, so, you know, one of the first books I read was Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia.
Bodybuilding.
They had a bunch of different ones. I think Arnold came later, but they had a bunch of, the one book that I read, I remember it was called The Art of Symmetry. And then another one was called Competitive Bodybuilding. So those two, having that knowledge about the sport allowed me to do it the proper way, or at least that was the proper way.
Symmetry of the body and then the bodybuilder melding the two together.
You know, it talked about how your arms and your neck and your calves should be close to the same size. Your waist should be, you know,
balanced. You
know, 20 inches smaller than your chest. You know what I'm saying? All those type of things that I was able to absorb in the beginning. So that gave me something to shoot for. And then I always tell people, if you want to achieve something, you got to be able to visualize it. And so I never visualized myself as even as the Tony guy, because I just wanted to be 200 pounds, because I was 40 pounds away. I thought that would be, you know, my goal. And so it took me about almost 2 years to get to 200 pounds. I'll never forget, you know, I used to compete in the heavyweight class. The light heavyweight cutoff is 198 and a quarter. And then so 198 and a half up is heavyweight. So I was 199. So I was like a half a pound.
How old were you at that point?
21, 22. 21. So I started lifting in end of 87, 88, you know, and then I did my first show in 89.
Yeah.
It was 2 shows in the same day. I placed second in one show and fourth. I placed fourth against the big dudes. And so I was like, you know what, I think I can do this. And back then, bodybuilding was on television. So I would watch from like 10:30 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. It was Corey Everson, Flex Magazine, Muscle Mania, back to back to back. I would watch that.
All that. Would you see the people like Lee Haney, all those guys up there?
Exactly. And also they had, you know, the wide world of sports. They would have the Olympia and what's now the Arnold Classic. Those type of shows was on television. So those guys actually inspired me. I remember Albert Beckles. Back then they said he was like 60-something years old competing against those guys, and he was placing very well. So I knew that that's something that I could do for a long time, and I was in control. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, as hard as you work, or because you have to put forth the effort. Most sports, you know, especially team sports, you can draft new players, you can trade for new players. You know what I'm saying? You got coaches and teammates and all that. Well, in bodybuilding, you have to do all the work yourself. So you can have a coach, you can have a nutritionist and all that, but you have to eat the food and lift the weights and all that type of stuff. So
when you're putting all that work in, so you've got the people you're inspired by that you're seeing, you got Tony who's giving you the mentorship, and then you're reading the books. When you have all those 3 things going, how are you getting feedback on yourself? Do you know what I mean? To say, okay, I'm here, I want to get here, there's a gap in between. And to bridge that gap, you got to make the corrections. How did you get feedback? Was it from people? Was it looking at yourself?
Oh yeah, definitely people, because like I say, so 1991 is when I got serious. So I was 200 pounds. I was 202 pounds, January 2nd, 1991. And that's when I decided I wanted to turn pro, because I had just watched Kevin Levrone turn pro, right?
Wow, yeah.
He got second at the junior nationals, and I watched it, and Paul DeMeo won, and I was like, man, they robbed Kevin, although Paul was awesome too. And then Kevin came back and won the nationals. I saw Vince Taylor win it in '88, but I was so green at the time, I really couldn't appreciate that. You know what I mean?
You mean green? You were young.
Yeah, I was just getting into it.
You didn't have the
so
experience.
what happened to me is I was lifting, right, but I was just eating. You know, I'll never forget the guy who actually really grabbed me and really focused. His name is Mark Wallace. And one day I was walking through the gym, and Mark was like, come here. And I had a big Run DMC gold necklace on, the tank top, and I was about 270. So this is after. So January 2nd, I was 202. Yeah. And I got introduced to a friend of mine. I actually called him my cousin. He's passed away, rest in peace. But he said, you got potential. Let me train you. And I was like, all right. So we go to the gym, and he breaks out a stopwatch. And I'm like, we're not running track. What are we doing? So he would set up the exercise, and then he would say, show me how to do it. And then he would say, go. And then I would do it. And it wasn't counting reps. It was how long, time. Yeah. So he started me off with like 30 seconds, then we went to 45 seconds, we went to 90 seconds, we went to 2 minutes. And so that's super high intensity. I'm talking about heavyweight too. He wasn't playing. And I was really strong back then. It's kind of weird. I was way stronger as a kid than I am now, because I don't even lift heavyweights anymore.
Yeah, we were doing small weights in the gym, and everyone was looking.
But back then, I could actually move some weight, and I don't know if that's when I learned about intensity. So intensity is doing more work in less time. So in other words, if you have this much work to do,
wow, I like that.
If you have this much work to do, right? Mm-hmm. If you take all the time and do the work, and then you cut that time in half, that means you've increased the intensity. You didn't increase the work, you increased the intensity. So training with high intensity, one of the books that I read was called Super High Intensity. And then the first one was called High Intensity, and then it came out with Super High Intensity. So I did all that stuff, and Harold took me through the craziest workouts. So I went from 202 pounds on January 2nd to 265 pounds probably by April 1st. So it was like almost a 50-something pound gain, because I had never eaten, structured meals or anything like that. Definitely never trained like that. And like maybe a month into that, I was dating this nurse, and I went to her job to see her one day. I'm sitting in the doctor's office, and she was like, let me test your blood. So she tested my blood, and she said, your liver enzymes are elevated. Are you taking anything? I was like, no. And now I know that just training will elevate your liver enzymes. Mm-hmm. And so she reached in the desk, and she grabbed the catalog and threw it at me. This is when steroids was legal with a prescription. So she said, look through there and see if you find anything that you want. So I was like, oh, I want that, I want that, I want that. And so she ordered it all and brought it to me. And so, like I say, my body just sucked it up, and I put on 50 plus pounds of muscle, and I was leaner. And everybody started freaking out because they couldn't understand, because they was literally watching me across the gym transform in front of their face. You know what I'm saying? These are the same guys I have been training with for a couple of years.
Basically, you're going from a process of like, you have the passion, but along the passion, you're reading the books. Then one person introduces you another thing. You're like, okay, what can I learn? Yeah. And then you're seeing the results measured, and then you get introduced to something else. And then, but along that journey, was there anything that was like not working? Do you know what I mean?
Those first 2 years, like I say, I was a sponge. So everything worked. It was my natural ability. The second 2 years, it was still my natural ability, but I had plateaued. I got to 200 pounds, but then I stayed 200 pounds for like 2 years. You know what I'm saying? But I was still training hard. I was just like, well, I guess this is as big as I'm going to get. And I never forget, one day I went to the gym. Went to the restaurant, a buffet type restaurant, and I ate like, I don't even know how much food I ate. And then I went and got on the scale, fully clothed with my shoes on and everything. And it said 217. And I probably was really only about 205 or something like that. But
you had a lot of food.
But I was just like, wow, okay. And for some reason, something clicked in my head from there. And then, like I said, I got introduced to chemistry, and she put me on prescription doses. It wasn't like I did a bunch. It was just a tap. And that's why I try to tell these young bucks, you just start off with a tap if you're going to do it. I can't say don't do it because that'll just make them go do it. So if you just learn how to do it the proper way, then you can end up, doing pretty good without hurting yourself.
Right.
So nowadays, it's just like everybody got the pedal to the metal. I call it microwave bodybuilding because
microwave.
Because
explain the definition of microwave bodybuilding.
So you like steak, right?
I love steak. Yeah.
How you like your steak?
I like it
medium.
Grilled. Yeah, medium. Yeah.
Right. So have you like microwave steak?
To eat microwave steak.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got it. It's a great analogy.
So if you like the human body, it takes time to replicate cells and all that type of stuff. If you rush the process, that's like cooking a steak in a microwave. If you mess up, you really have no recourse. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Being that I was 6'2" and this skinny, I had a lot of room before I messed up. You know what I'm saying? Plus, I had someone who was a surgeon in the gym. You know what I'm saying? Like he knew he could look at me. And he knew he was an athlete himself. I mean, this dude was 330 maybe. He had 25-inch arms, 25-inch calves, could do a backflip. I mean, he would dunk a basketball. He was an athlete. So he trained me like an athlete with weights. We did mostly all free weights. There was machines back then, but we did mostly free weights. And so, like I said, I just had a really good, solid foundation being, I don't like to use the term all natural because I don't believe bodybuilding is natural. I believe somebody like an Amish person that's buffed, that's natural. Somebody who works, a physical job that doesn't lift weights,
it's very subjective.
Because they're genetics.
Yeah.
Your muscles are genetic. I mean, your body's ability to make muscle, that's all genetic. So, but when you start walking on the treadmill, eating 6 meals a day, taking supplements, it's no longer natural. You may not be enhanced. In other words, you might not be taking steroids or PEDs. But it's not natural, you know what I'm saying? Using all those machines, it's just not natural. So that's kind of how I separate it. You have naturally gifted people who don't lift, and then you have people who lift without chemistry, and then you have everybody else. And like I always tell people, when you get to a certain point, which my point was about 25, that's when I said, this is what I want to do. And like I said, I got with the nurse, got my medicine, as they say. And I applied the knowledge that I'd already gained from busting my ass, and I just kept doing that. And then what PEDs do is they slow everything down. So and basically with nitrogen retention, it makes your body hold on to the nutrients, which gives your body time to create the muscle. Whereas being an ectomorph, when I first was doing it, I would gain 10 pounds, lose 12 pounds.
Just for everyone, ectomorph, very skinny, right?
I was tall, skinny. I looked muscular, but it was tiny muscles. It was like basketball. I tell people all the time, I'm J.J. Walker under you. You probably ain't old enough.
I only know LeBron James.
Good Times.
Jordan.
No. Good Times was a show back in the day. This guy, his name was, I forgot his real name, but we called him J.J. He was super tall and super skinny. And that's how a lot of young black guys, they grow up tall and skinny. You could see their muscles, but they're tiny. And so when you apply that intensity and then the nutrition, and when you add the chemistry, it's like putting nitrous in a, you know what I mean?
So everyone's got, everyone's at a different stage in life. But I think one thing that struck me that you said in the gym when we're talking about health, the health is the quality of your cells.
Yes.
Right? You have healthy cells, you have a healthy body, right? Unhealthy cells are cancer. I know it's simply like you give the cell what it needs, which is water, nutrients, oxygen. But there was a whole piece you told me in the gym that I found fascinating when you get your concept around health, because you can be fit doing that, but you can be very unhealthy.
Yes.
Everything going on inside the body. And for me,
most fit people are unhealthy because it's the way that they achieve it. Because, like I said, if you have all these resources, it looks great. I call them polished turds. You know what I'm saying? Like, in other words, it looks great. but it's shit. You know what I'm saying? Like it's microwaved. It's a microwave steak.
Microwave steak. You don't want to be a microwave steak. So, and if you microwave a cell, you'll kill it.
Exactly.
And so this is, for me, 20 years in China. One of the things I really got to see is that in China they talk about the internal organs, right? It's all about organ health and cell health.
Yeah.
And you got to give everything that your cell needs to survive, because you're going to turn 60 soon, I think, in one year.
August next year. Yeah.
And from you to go from all, the experiences you've been through to keep this shape, and I train with you today.
Yeah.
And I've trained with so many people around the world, Golds, China, England, Africa, and when you look at someone and say, this guy's different. And today we train so well and hard with small weights. And I look at your shape and I'm like, wow.
Bodybuilding is an art form. They've gotten away from that, but it's everything always returns to its original state.
What would you say it is now in one word? Graffiti.
Oh, well, graffiti is a type of art.
That's a type of art, okay.
But it's organized confusion. There's no flow. I'm not saying there's no flow. We have classic.
How big do you think flow is in a workout?
It's everything. Like the exercise sequence. You notice how we did the work sequence, today.
Yeah.
So people always say, well, kind of describe your training. So to me, training is like surgery. One false move and you're injured. Now you can't train.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? It's like sex. If you don't do it right, somebody ain't going to be satisfied. You know what I'm saying? So it's like cooking. If you don't season it right, people ain't going to love it. You know what I mean?
You might as well just microwave it.
You might as well microwave it. So, you know what I'm saying? So the way that I approach my training, the way that I approach my food, the way that I approach my supplementation, quality in, quality out. If you want it fast, you better know what the hell you're doing. Because if you get really good at something, you could do it fast.
Right.
But bodybuilding is not one of those things. You know what I'm saying?
And what I found interesting about that, Tony, is that I have my notebook out today. Probably the only guy at Banu's gym taking notes on every exercise, taking a picture, because the way you approached it. Someone like me, who I've gone back to school, now doing a doctorate based around health, leadership, artificial intelligence, studying at Cambridge, at Harvard. One of the pieces I want to know is that, okay, health is a big topic. We talk about cellular health, but also looking at people that are training in the gym, and they don't tell you everything. They'll give you a small snippet.
They only have to tell me.
They have to tell you. But
I can look at it and see it.
You know straight away because you walk the path. There's so many people that know the books but haven't walked the path. And what I love today, and we've just met, that from that small session, your way to sequence the workout, change small movements like the tricep, we call it the dolphin, the moving, which I was like, wow, we're not just tackling muscles, we're tackling movement.
It's form and function. You know what I'm saying?
Form and function.
So I know Paul Dillette's perfect example. He was one of my, I started to emulate him, right? But then I realized that I can't do what Paul does. I remember the magazine Paul was taking a picture, he was curling 225, and that, they saying that's how he got his 25-inch arms. But I trained with Paul. He didn't ever do that. But when you read the magazine, you go run and do that. That's kind of how I tore my pec, following Dorian Yates. And I realized once I turned pro that, when I started doing my photo shoots, that's not what they really do. That's just looks good for the magazine.
Right, it's just a snapshot.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people hurt themselves or get this false sense of whatever following these magazines and these influencers, when really all they're doing is trying to get clicks and leads. And back then it was just to sell magazines.
Right, to get on the cover, then you get a bit of sponsorship.
So after I tore my pec, I stopped bodybuilding for four and a half years. I was like, my symmetry is that's my only thing I got. I'm too tall. I can't out-muscle anybody. So without my flow, I didn't want to do it. And I remember.
What did you do after the injury then? How to bring yourself back?
So I got very depressed. I sat on the couch and smoked blunts and played video games for like 3 years straight.
What video games did you play?
It was Madden back then. It was a couple other games, but mostly Madden pretty much football every single day. I did other things, but I'm saying like that was my pacifier, in other words. I did other stuff, but I'm saying like that was, what kept me, I guess, sane, I mean, I didn't even go in the gym for 3 years. Like, I didn't even go inside the building for 3 years.
Wow.
So one day I was like, the new Gold's Gym opened up the road, so I went in there and joined. And I'm personal training. I'm not even really training myself. I'm just training other people.
Is this Gold's in Atlanta?
Yes, in Roswell.
Okay.
And so I'm in there and I'm like, okay, I don't really look the part right now. I said, so I have to like figure out a way to get clients. So I saw these two ladies that was always in there consistently. And I said, hey, I'm just starting personal training here and I'm trying to get my business up. Would you guys let me train you for free for a couple of weeks so people can see me training?
So they could see your value.
Yeah.
It's all about value.
And so I trained those ladies for 2 weeks. They love it. They end up paying me after that. And I got like, I don't know, I was training like 18 people a day, which I never want to do again. That was like torture.
Wow.
I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
So what would you say your secret sauce was in one sentence? To go from 2 free people, change their life, and then everyone wants to train with you.
Well, what I've learned, after I retired, I learned about the law of receiving. But being a child, as a kid, I was on the Bible team, and I read the parables about the law of receiving. First, in order to receive, you got to give first.
Wow.
And so I just gave of and it's not giving money. A lot of people that give money, but there's nothing attached to that. So when you give of yourself, your time, your effort, your energy, your knowledge, your wisdom,
It comes back to you.
that's a gift. You're giving that to someone, and it always returns 30, 60, 90, 100-fold, like literally every single time. People really need to learn that. I'm telling you, it works like crazy. I mean, I could tell you story after story after story.
And when you're giving, is it something
giving
in your heart
with
or
nothing to get back?
Nothing to get back.
Because
unconditional.
You're going to get something back. So if you don't focus on that, then because if you focus on it, you're gonna shrink or miniaturize what's really coming.
Yeah.
If you give truly, and like I say, I just wanted people to see that I was a trainer. You know what I'm saying?
So when you're with those people and you want to give to them, is the question you're asking yourself, how can I give to this person? How can I give them value? Let's say those two ladies. What were you asking in that moment?
Well, again, I knew what I was doing. I just wasn't doing it. So I transformed those chicks in 2 weeks. They went from looking like they've been looking for the whole time. I don't know how many, like a couple of years being there, they looked the same. They looked good, but they looked the same. And in 2 weeks, they were going crazy because they had never experienced that kind of transformation.
They never experienced what I was experiencing today, which is the muscle, right?
Exactly. I've been doing that for three decades.
Yeah, I mean, I felt my muscle blowing up today when you were doing that.
You saw X. He transformed right in front of our face.
Did the guy? Yeah.
All his people walking past him like, dude, you look different. Like
because your friend
since
he
last
showed
week.
up and he was just, it's decent, and then I just saw everything start popping out, and I was like, what?
With the 20-pound dumbbells.
The 20-pound dumbbells, yeah.
People. I tried to get my arms to 22 inches, 23 inches, right? And I was stuck at like 20 and a half to barely 21. And a guy, his name is Anthony Aponte. Matter of fact, we just reconnected. I hadn't talked to him since 2007. And he just texted me out of the blue. Hey, bro, just checking on you, making sure you're good. I wrote this book, and it's at the editors now. And he said, and of course, you're the main character in my book, and I just wanted to reach out to you. And I freaked out because the same day, the guy who started me off, when I first started lifting, not Toney, but the guy before him, he called me the same day. I haven't talked to him since 2006.
So what do you call that, flow or serendipity? Or both?
Both. Serendipity because before they called me, right, I was in Chicago. I was speaking. I was speaking. I don't do lectures. I just get up and talk, kind of like we're doing right now.
No, free form.
And so I'm on stage talking, and I finish, and I come off stage, and this guy comes up to me. He was like, "Hey man, that was really good. I really enjoyed that." He said, "But you got something going on with your shoulder. Can I fix it for you?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And so he fixed it, right? He fixed my shoulder, and then I was like, "Well, what else can you do?" He's like, "I can do your whole body." He said, "Not here. You got to come to my house." I was like, "Okay, cool. How much you charge?" He's like, $200. I was like, $200 for an hour? He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right." And I talked to this other guy to give me a ride over there. And I go in there, and he literally adjusted my entire body from head to toe, neck, arms, shoulders, fingers, toes, knees, hips, elbows, wrists, in one session. Then after that, the other guy went in, he did his session and came back out. And he was like, he did acupuncture on him. I was like, I want to do acupuncture. So I run back in there and do an hour of acupuncture. And so I'm laying on the table and I hear God speaking to me. I haven't gotten into that part, but that's my whole process after I retired from bodybuilding. Really was my, basically God chose me when I was young, a kid, and then I chose bodybuilding and told God to hold up, I'll be back. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then he took me all the way through my career, and then he took me all the way from when I retired back down to 2021. I got COVID, and I went from 238 pounds to 202 pounds, back to my original weight.
Starting weight when
so
you went in the gym.
God really literally took me back to factory settings, and he said, now go build it back up, but not with the way you did it before. So I'm not doing hormones. I'm doing supplements now. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think that I could actually get this back, because this was my goal. I weighed 235. This is where I wanted to be.
Me in the gym. I said, wow,
this is what I wanted to be. So God showed me when I was 202. Never forget it. He was like, I want you to go, because I learned that you could take God with you anywhere. I mean, even in the pits of hell. And I wasn't really, being a preacher's kid, bodybuilding, and I was a male dancer. All that stuff is secular. So I didn't include God in that. I love God. I still believed in God, but, you basically, you want to do what you want to do. You know what I mean? And so I'm not a hypocrite, so I wasn't going to be, going to church, hallelujah, every Sunday, and then going and being a stripper and doing all the stuff I was doing. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't going to go do that. So I just left and just went to do that. And when I retired from bodybuilding, God took me through this process, because when I retired, I was injured, but it was a soft tissue injury. Normally I do something and I heal like that. It wouldn't heal. And I was like,
was that your tendon that was hurt?
Yeah, in my leg. And so, I was still traveling the world, still competing, still doing all that stuff, but it wouldn't heal. And I was 49. I was prepping for my farewell tour, like Kobe. I was going to do every show that year just for the fans. And 8 weeks into my prep, or 8 weeks out from the first show, I was getting some really extreme massages done, and it ruptured the fascia in my leg, and it wouldn't heal. And so I did the Arnold that year. I did Poland, got 8th place. No, got 4th place, I'm sorry. And then I did the Arnold and got last place. I've never gotten last place in anything in my existence, not running, not racing. At that time? Yes, 49 and a half. And so I realized that I had to stop. I said, until I find out what's going on, I'm just going to chill. So I went to a doctor, a naturopath. His name is Dr. Bergeron, and he did muscle testing, did a bunch of testing. He said, I know this is going to sound weird. I'm like, what? He's like, you're malnutrition. You're really deficient in a lot of nutrients. And I had that issue before while I was competing, but I thought I was up on my game. You know what I'm saying?
Would you say those nutrients are affecting your health, the cell health we talk about?
Yes, exactly. And so he said, you also have a parasite in your kidney. I was like, really? I'm like, what kind? He's like, I don't know. I was like, okay. So now I'm perplexed. Now I'm just like, wait a minute. I got a parasite in my kidney. I'm malnutrition. He said, the only way you can fix this is to stop doing what you're doing and focus on your health. So I was like, okay, I'm done with bodybuilding. I called the promoter and was like, yo, I'm not doing it no more. And a week later, or 2 weeks later, some days later, it was not months, it was a couple of days, maybe a week or two later, I was going to Utah to do an appearance. And one of my friends, who I don't talk to every day, he called me and was like, hey, I saw on the internet you going to Utah. I was like, yeah. He said, you need to go check out this guy. His name is Joe Preli. And he has a machine that can tell you everything that's going on. And I'm like, I didn't tell the dude that I wasn't doing this anymore till I know what's going on. That was God. And so I went to Utah, found the guy, and he sits me down and he starts telling me his story. And he puts the electrodes on my ankle and on my feet and on my head. And I'm sitting there listening to him talk, and I'm looking at this monitor with the image of a human turning around. And so the thing starts scanning my whole body. So it goes down and it shows something in my neck, which I used to have something in my neck. I don't know what it was. And then it showed my pec tear. And then it showed my kidney. Then it showed I had arthritis in my right. All the things that I knew was wrong with me. And I'm sitting there freaking out because I'm just like, what kind of witchcraft is this? So he finishes the test, and then he starts going through everything. And then he starts telling me, he started asking me questions. Have you ever been to this country and this country and da-da-da-da? I was like, yeah, how you know? He said, because this organism comes from this country and this organism comes from that country. He said, I see you were very promiscuous. I'm like, huh? How the hell you know that? You know, like I said, I was a male stripper. And so then I'm like, okay, this can't be a joke because I didn't tell this dude nothing. This machine literally told me everything. I said, can you click on my kidney? The doctor said I had something was up with my kidney. So he clicked on my kidney and he said, well, your kidney function is fine. He said, let me do a cross check. So he did like a cross section of the kidney. And on the monitor, there's a bunch of different colors. Green means good and black means bad. And it's like green, yellow, red, you know, all the way to black. Yeah. Well, down in the bottom of my kidney was a black spot. It was black. So he clicked on that and this long word popped out. And I was like, I Googled the word and it was kidney worm. And I was like, wow, I got a worm in my kidney. I was like, that's crazy. And so then it said, how do you get this worm? And it said eating raw seafood, you know, and I had been eating 8 to 12 ounces of raw tuna every day for like 6 months straight. And I was like, well, damn, that's exactly how you get it. And so then so now I'm like, how do you get rid of it? Well, there's no known way to get rid of it. You can kill it, but you have to figure that out. Or take the kidney. Of course, I wasn't going to take the kidney, so that put me on a mission to like heal myself. He said, you also have liver flukes. And he said, your blood is dirty too. And I was like, wow, I'm really jacked up. So at that moment, I knew I wasn't bodybuilding anymore. And so then I started doing research on how to kill parasites, how to cleanse your body, how to cleanse the temple. I started getting spiritual again. And so I started fasting and praying because I was like, I don't want to die, and I definitely didn't want to lose my kidney. And so I asked God to show me how to heal myself. And it took me like 18 months, like a whole process of, you know, constantly fasting, doing herbs and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, frequency therapies, all that. And so probably, you know, about the 16th or 17th month, this was 2018. I kind of had this epiphany, and one of the therapies, it was called using gum spirits, turpentine. So I did the herbs, I did the fasting, so I knew the bugs were very weak. And in my studies, I learned that and if you're trying to kill parasites, you got to kind of make them uncomfortable, and then they'll start reacting, and then that lets you know that you're doing the right thing. And so I had pretty much got myself cleaned out as much as I can clean myself out. And something led me to this gum spirits turpentine. And I highly do not recommend it to anyone, especially if you're not clean. You can't just go from 0 to that. It'll I don't know what it'll do to you. But turpentine is distilled sap from the pine tree. Mm-hmm. And it's a clean spirit. You have alcohol, which is basically evil spirits, and then you have this clean spirit. So you fast for like 3 or 4 days, and then you take 3 sugar cubes and you drop like 8 drops of this pure gum spirits turpentine on the sugar, and then you eat 1 cube at a time. And I remember when I put the first one in my mouth and swallowed it, I can feel the bugs running from it. First they come to it because of sugar, and then I felt it kind of like this, and I got this crazy euphoric feeling. And
where were you at that time?
I was at home, yeah. And so during that process, I over those next 3 days, I felt like I was dying, but I didn't feel sick or nothing like that. I just felt like I was dying. You know what I'm saying? I used that terminology, but I wasn't afraid to die. It just felt like my time was up, and I don't know why. I don't know why that came over me. So I drive to my parents' house, and I went in there and confessed all my sins to my parents. Came back home. I took all my kids, called some friends. I confessed my sins to everybody, and to make sure that I was good with everyone. And even my wife, finally my wife, and she was like the last person. Just all the wrongs that I did over the years, blah, 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 blah. And that's what I learned about repenting. Because, a lot of people, they sin and they say, ask for forgiveness 1,000,000 times, and they keep on doing it. And because they believe that they're saved by grace. And repentance means you have a change. You change the way you think, and you live according to that change, and you stick with it. So that's real repentance. And how I got to that point was I was going through my situation, and God started talking to me, and I started hearing it. He would tell me to do certain things, and then I would do the thing, and then get the confirmation that it was him telling me. It still happens to this day. It was really, really crazy. So he showed me. So I prayed. I said, Father, you gotta remove this desire, whatever's in me, in my flesh, that's making me be a sex addict, a weed head, all these things that I was like, because I don't want to be on my knees praying for the same stuff. I said, you have to remove it from my flesh. As I'm praying that, I feel this sensation in my kidney, and I didn't think nothing of it. The next morning, I'm using the bathroom, and even before that, God was talking to me, and he was like, I was in the bed under the covers, and he was like, stand up. And I was like, no. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, for what? And then he was like, stand up. So I stood up. I put my feet on the floor. He said, get up. So I got up, and then he said, look up. And so I went and walked to my window. We had like a crescent window, and I looked out the window, and I saw the constellation Orion literally dead center in my window. It was huge. It took up the whole window. And I was just like, wow, that's crazy. Well, when I was a kid, my uncle preached a sermon about Orion. I don't even really remember the sermon. I just remember Orion from that. So now every time I look up in the sky, I look for Orion. That's how I knew about that constellation. So anyway, I realized that was God talking to me. So like I say, the night before praying, I felt that sensation. So then he said, well, go into your secret place, which is my wash closet, where I use the bathroom, masturbate, whatever, all that. So I go in there, and I start to urinate. And all of a sudden, and I'm still half groggy or whatever, all of a sudden I felt like I got struck by lightning, and the freaking worm shot out, went to the toilet, blew my mind. So I did not expect that at all. And so when that happened, then I knew. That's what I was like, you know what, God is real. A lot of people, I don't believe in God. I know. And I know that the kingdom of God is within you. You have to meditate and cleanse your temple, and then the spirituality will come to you. It's not a religious thing. I'm not religious. I don't go to church. None of that. I meditate, and I talk to God, and he talks back. He tells me things. And like I say, I obey it. And I'll give you another story. And I know I'm all over the place.
No. It's good. It's good because I want to bring it home as well with this.
But a few weeks ago, about a month ago, what God showed me is, listen, I'm with you even in the little things, stuff that you wouldn't even think that I'm involved in. I'm involved in it. Like going to the gym. Like I told you, I never involved God in my training. So I started praying before I work out. And he would basically tell me what to do. And I would go, it was freaky. So anyway, I went to a bodybuilding show, and on the way to the show, I'm driving like 90 miles an hour, trying to get there because I'm thinking I'm gonna be late. But on the way home, I was chilling. I was like, I'm gonna drive slow and to take my time. So I get in the car and I'm getting ready to start the trip, and God said, turn on Waze, which is Waze like this. He said, turn on Waze because there's gonna be some cops out, right? I said, no, I'm straight. I literally was like, I'm good. I'm chilling tonight. You know what I'm saying? Like God was sitting in the seat with me. I was like, no, I'm good. So I'm riding home and I'm chilling. And so this van gets in front of me, and it has these, You ever see them things like the car deals like that? They had those things, and I wanted to get around the van. So I drive a Tesla. I punched it, went around the van, and the cop was sitting right there. Pulled me over, gave me a ticket. I was like, OMG. And he said, when the officer left, because I knew, I was like, I didn't obey. I was just like, wow. Because God can't really use you unless he can trust you. So if you can't do the little stuff, how you going to do the big stuff? You know what I'm saying? So ever since that moment, whenever I hear him speak, I stop, drop, and roll. I do what he says. That's why I'm here in Dubai. It's crazy how I ended up here because I wanted to come to the show, but not really. I wasn't going to spend money to come. So, if somebody had flew me over or whatever, I would have came. So I'm at home, and my buddy, he texts me. Now, my business partner who I wanted you to meet last night, his name is Spencer.
Yeah.
I used to train Spencer, right? Spencer's an investor, real estate, blah, blah, blah. I haven't talked to Spencer since March of last year. So it was like 13, 14 months since I talked to him. Well, right before I talked to him, Xavier called me and said, hey, man, one of my friends is really sick. Can you help him out? And I'm like, I'm not a doctor. He said, I know. He said, but there's something going on in his stomach. He don't know what it is. So I get on the phone with him, and he's talking to me. And like 1 or 2 minutes in, I said, bro, you got a bug. You got some kind of parasite, some kind of bug. And so I said, I'll give you a protocol, right? So I hang up the phone. I said, I'll send it to you later. Hour or two later, Spencer texted me and said, hey, man, can you come by, and holler at me? I was like, all right. So I go to Spencer's house, and he's telling me, he catches me up. We hadn't talked in 14 months. He catches me up. He says, I'm working on some investment stuff. I need to raise a bunch of money. And I was supposed to go to Croatia, but we decided to go to Dubai. So I'm leaving tomorrow. And I was just like, okay. So I gave him Xavier's information. Yeah. I hooked him up, and then I left. So I leave Spencer's house, and Xavier calls me and says, hey, man, you know that dude who you helped yesterday on the phone? I was like, yeah. He said, he's the leader of this investment group in Dubai. I was like, oh, wait a minute. So I just talked to Spencer, who I hadn't talked to. I had never talked to that guy before. I said, something guy said, go to Dubai. So I went on Delta. Now, if you go on Delta right now, the tickets are like $2,000. They was on sale. It was $900. I was like, run it. So I bought the ticket and caught the same flight as Spencer.
And then landed here.
And then came here. And I had opposition trying to come here. The Delta took off 2 hours late. Then I get to Paris, had to miss the flight, so I had to book a room. And then we flew to Dubai. I get to Dubai, and my luggage is still in Paris. So the first 4 days I was here, I was wearing the same clothes every day. So the devil was trying to discourage me. And I was like, whatever. I just washed my clothes, put them on, and so that's how I ended up being in Beanos in the first place, being in the gym. You understand what I'm saying? I stopped, dropped, and rolled because now I know when I hear the voice,
you're going with the flow.
I just move.
So, and it's interesting you talk about hearing the voice, because I think if we're so attached to things, we're never open, and if we're open, it lets new things come in. Yep. And so, there were so many things you said, and I'm going to tie it all together, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. But one piece, even on the way here, you told me something about, and you could summarize in a minute or 2 minutes, but, tell me about your wife, and you talked about cancer and the tumor. Like that really hit me.
So my wife, one day my wife hugged me, right? And I felt this really bad energy from her, which I had never felt before. That's my baby. We've been together almost 35 years. So I hugged her, and I was like, ooh. I was like, what is that? I was like, so she has implants. I said, baby, you need to get them implants out. Something, I didn't know what it was. So she was like, yeah, whatever. Then 2 days later, she was like, she went to the doctor. She didn't even tell me. She said she was showering, and she felt the lump. So she goes to the doctor, and he says, basically, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. So he said, I want you to go to a specialist. So we go to a specialist, and the specialist is like, well, let's do a biopsy. And I'm like, oh, hell no. For what? Like, I don't really care if she has cancer or not. I don't care what kind of cancer it is. We're not doing that. So I grabbed her and left, and I took her home, and I said, baby, I said, I saw this coming, but of course I'm not a doctor or psychic, but I remember seeing her. She was arguing with her son, my stepson, girlfriend, and I don't know, something happened. I saw her bend over crying and clutching her chest. You know, I'm thinking,
saw that in a dream?
No, I saw it live. I mean, but she had a very stressful job. She was eating at drive-thrus every day in sales. She was in sales. So when she would do a sale, come home, she was like, "Rah." And then when she'd come home with no sale, she'd be pissed.
So it's highs and
right.
lows.
And so it always say, you know, your lifestyle, and then something triggers it to start growing. Right. So when I seen her bend over and clutch her chest, it kind of disturbed me. But then when I felt that energy, I knew it was something. And I didn't think it was cancer. I just wanted the implants out because she had them for like 8 or 9 years or whatever. And so I had this oil that I got that was supposed to be holy oil. I don't know what it was, but I'm a believer. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know God is real. So I said, baby, I'm going to put some of this oil on your breast, because it was scaling up. It was getting like this scaly type of lizard type skin. And I said, pull your shirt up. Let me put some of this oil on. And so I opened up the cap, and I go to touch her, put it on, and like up under her breast, and like this, like it moved, like it reacted to my hand. And I was like, whoa. And in that moment, God told me, I'm going to show you how to heal her, but it's going to be work. You got to do a lot of work. And so in that moment, I knew she was going to be healed, but I didn't know the process. And we went through a long process because she already went and got everything approved for the insurance. I said, well, most people, when, if cancer takes them, it's because of the treatment, because their body can't take it. I said, let me get you healthy, and then you go do whatever you want to do. So it took 18 months. I don't know why 18 months, because that's how long it took me. 18 months later, we took her to the doctor. They couldn't find the tumor.
It was gone.
No, they couldn't find it. So then they did an MRI, and it was 8.5 centimeters by 5 centimeters when she first got it done. And at that point, it was 0.8 centimeters. And so I knew that what we did got it at the source. And then, of course, she still went and did the conventional, and she's fine now. But after the conventional, I took her to Mexico, and I took her to Texas, and we basically re-jump-started her immune system, cleared out all the residue from all of that, and she's good to go. It's been 5 years. So,
wow,
yeah.
that is amazing. And, I wanted to ask you now, so from that journey, from from the gym, and just correct me if I'm wrong, function and form, you have to give before you receive.
Yep.
And, when you went on the journey from bodybuilder, the last tour, a bit like Kobe, it's for the fans, do it different. God was speaking to you, and, you start being more open, cleansing, praying, how to heal yourself, confess the sins. And, to do that, you really have to be, it's less in the head, it's more in the heart, I would say, from that it's all from the
like
heart.
I say, the kingdom of God is within you. He knows your heart. That's it. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And if God is within you, when you clear your temple and you have a clean heart, he just shows up. It's not outside of us. Religion teaches you to look up, Sky Daddy and all that type of stuff.
The kingdom was within, right?
That's it, bro.
And if the kingdom was within, and it's not the head but the heart, and so I want to bring it all together and confessing the sins, repenting your sins,
confessing. The confession part is because if you ask for forgiveness in private, nobody can hear that. If you go tell, I went and told my parents, my children, my friends, my coworkers, my wife, all the stuff that I was doing that they had no idea I was doing. If they see me go back and do that again, they're gonna be like, "What's up? What's going on with that?" Right. So now you put yourself on blast, and you have to remove it from your flesh, and then you'll be good. Yeah. I mean, I'm still human. I still struggle. I still get the same exact temptations. I just kind of laugh. I said, "Nice try, devil."
Nice try. So if it's nice try, and then even if we go back to that small moment, like when you were a kid and Orion's belt, even though there was no meaning in it, but like
there was some meaning, but I don't remember it. And it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When I saw Orion, it
confirmed. It was
okay. The sky moves, right? 15 degrees every hour. If I had got up or not got up, I would have never saw it. If I had got up 5 minutes before that, I would have never saw it. If I got up 5 minutes after that, I would have never saw it. The fact that it was in dead center in my window in that precise moment, I knew that was God wanting me to see it because he knew that it was going to trigger the thought that I had as a kid.
So you had the, so then... And
everything is connected.
If everything's connected, you're coming back from the beginning of the moment, you've been with your wife 35 years, you knew instantly she had that, and you could push it away and feel it. All those things tying, all those interconnected moments, the moment us meeting in the gym, a sport that's brought you to where you are, to start back at the beginning, to redo the journey again, what would be, and it, you know, a lot of it I feel from the heart for you, it's everything you do. What is the value that drives it all, that connects everything together? Is one word.
Authenticity.
And?
I'm purely authentic. Everything I do, when I'm talking, I'm speaking from experience. I don't have any degrees. I did well in school, but like I said, I don't have book learning other than the books that I've read. You know what I'm saying? And so everything that I know,
and that pure
I've experienced it.
Yeah, and that pure authentic feeling you have. So with your wife, with the kids, you know, giving to receive, not taking first, but giving. What's the value?
Because I know you have to understand, if you give with a pure heart and no intention, you getting it back.
So what is the value of a pure heart?
You shall see God. You will end up knowing God and not have to. You don't have to believe. Most people they're.
But the value of it. What is the value? The feeling. If it's from the heart. If it's pure.
I live in complete bliss, bro.
And complete bliss is?
I'm extremely happy no matter what my circumstances are.
So,
do I get pissed off? Yes, of course.
Sure. So
usually at just people being NPCs and not caring about the next man, like the way people drive out here. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that.
It's crazy.
So it irritates me. Not as bad anymore because I realized that was one of the last things that I needed to conquer. My fuse. And so I've been doing very well with that. That's why I didn't want to drive when I came here. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna ride in the car.
But if you're flowing. You're from the heart, you're giving, it's pure, it's authentic.
Yep.
That is one value as well. Because your passions have driven you to do all these things, from the highs to the lows, from picking yourself up.
Okay. So so a lot of people think value is how much something costs or how much something's worth.
But I mean,
I have complete peace of mind. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I had a problem with women. Last night I was sitting next to 8 different women, and they were all like wondering why I wasn't partaking. And I'm just like, I did this 30 years ago. It has no effect on me. They offered me drinks, none. And it's not like I'm trying to be a goody two shoes. Most people use things and money to soothe their pain because they're miserable on the inside.
Yeah.
Once you clean your temple, you acquire a pure heart, then you live righteously, not church righteously, righteous within you. Okay.
So I've 100% there.
Christ consciousness. We are in the age of Aquarius. Right. All the knowledge and wisdom. You seeing how this technology, everything's coming to light. So if you have to you have to have a clean receptor to receive the downloads.
Right.
The people who aren't clean, they're clashing with it, and that's why everybody's crazy.
So if they're clashing, and it's maybe it's hate or it's anything, but so those would be the values or whatever that is. But from you, because your journey is extraordinary, and it's like it's very driven by the heart, very driven by giving, very driven by like, you know what, all the temptations outside are not there. It's still in the heart. Parasites are jumping out.
They're coming in, but they like, oh no, we don't want to be with this dude. We out
because you have a pureness in the heart.
I'm still passing bugs and worms and all that.
That's the process of life. But the value you have, like, what is the feeling you have in your heart, like with your wife? One word.
Again, I'm just completely authentic. The thing is,
authentic is what? Go deeper. I would say.
I'm really okay. The person that you're talking to, this is really me. So people look at my physique and they have a perception of what I should be like or what they think I'm like. And then when they talk to me, they're like, damn. Like I've had people apologize to me because of their perception of me is so far away from how I really am. And like I say, the old me might have matched their perception, but the new me, you can see, like Xavier's like, bro, you're literally glowing.
So if you're glowing, you're glowing, and I could tell you're very much in the heart. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this conversation. Wouldn't have flowed.
Yeah. By the way, all that I said, that wasn't me talking. That was being spoken through. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no way I can recall all those things
because it's not coming from your head.
Like I said, it's a form of righteousness, and I don't mean from a religious standpoint.
Yeah, but it's
Jesus Christ. If you believe in Jesus, he walked this earth and he did not sin. We all sin, right? So I'm not saying I'm that, but the whole Christ consciousness is available for everyone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, but you have to seek it, though.
But consciousness is going through all the levels of, the temptations and everything, involving yourself and being authentic and bliss in the heart, able to be there for your wife, to help her through all that. And it wasn't like it was anywhere here. It was
the old me would have been no good to her.
Yeah, but the new me is living in what feeling would you say from the heart? I know it's pure. I know it's authentic. I know it's bliss and it's happiness.
I can't really describe it because it's not a tangible thing. You know what I'm saying? It's spiritual. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience. So this me,
but with this experience, would you say all the layers are stripping down?
I just feel like I'm ascending.
So if you're
so we start at the bottom, earth, then it's air, then it's earth, water, air. Fire. I'm in the fire right now. You know what I'm saying? And then the next one is renewing. So you got to renew your mind, renew your heart, renew your body. I pray for God to regenerate my cells, terminate or get rid of anything that's foreign that shouldn't be in my body. That's how I talk to God. So you know what I'm saying? All the contaminants I come in contact with, protect me from that. That's how I live, because now I know that that's available. And like I say, it's available to everyone. I'm not special. I just tapped in.
But if it's available to everyone and you tapped into it, and I'm still going deeper on it, but I really want to get to it, because this is also part of one of the reasons I decided to go back to school, to step away from, doing personal training, stuntman, whatever, and then back at school. I think there's the values that connect us all. That's the reason you and I connect in the gym, very pure from the heart.
Yeah.
And like the stories that you touched and talked about with your wife, the cleansing of the parasites, the childhood memory.
I haven't even told you the story about me asking God for $1 million, and 72 hours later, I'm on the phone with a guy who gave me $1 million. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's so ridiculous. Now, the crazy thing about me is I don't really want anything. I want something for my children and my legacy, but for me personally, I'm good, bro. I'm not really content. I understand this material stuff is not important. If you go through, like people who on their deathbed who are atheists and all that type of stuff, they all say the same thing. I messed up, or none of this stuff was worth it. All those hours working, I didn't get to spend with my kids.
What do they say on the bed, would you say, most of them?
I mean, I got it in my notes, but almost all the famous atheists, they all confessed to God before they died. I mean, I got it. It's not me, not my documentation. I keep stuff like that because...
So do you think they're thinking of things, or the people and connections and things they had?
Well, what happens is, like I say, people think God is outside of them. And so that's really where the problem is. You know what I'm saying? Because there's all Buddha, all these different gods, but that's not the eternal creator. That's the only thing, the source of all things is the only thing you should be praying to. You know what I'm saying? When you meditate.
And the source is?
However all this started, because you got to understand, this is your soul is eternal. It's been here. And so we have this concept of time, but it's always been. They use the word reincarnation. I'm not into it like that.
Yeah.
I just know that it's eternal. I don't know what it is. What's next after that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? After this.
Yeah.
But I understand what's happening right now. And so it's not money. It's not sex. It's not food. It's not cars. It's not houses and clothes and watches and all that stuff is distraction.
So it's that's a distraction. That's a noise pushing aside.
The crazy thing about it is I'm gonna be making a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm not knocking it, because currency is energy. So the more currency you have, the more things you can do. So they always say money doesn't change you; it just makes you bigger, a bigger version of whatever it is you are.
Right. So if what you are now is more signal with the clean, pure, authentic, bliss, happy, able to tap into people. You got a bug in you. You need to clear it out.
Just standing next to you, I can tell. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, what I will say is a lot of people, I won't say anything, right? If I feel the energy, because I don't want to freak people out. I'm not trying to, you know what I'm saying? Like, because a lot of people ain't ready for it.
Yeah.
But I've had people who have come into my house, right? And I start talking to them kind of like I'm talking to you right now, and they start wigging out, right?
What does wigging out mean?
Like I physically, like having issues, physically sick. I had a friend of mine, he came to my house, and I was telling him the story about me putting the oil on my wife's breast, right? And so he started getting lightheaded and like sick. I'm like, what's wrong with you? He's like, I don't know. He started sweating. I said, do you want to feel better? Or do you want me to stop talking? You know what I'm saying? He was like, I want to feel better. So I went and got him something to drink. I said, you know what? I'm going to stop talking. I took some of that same oil and I rubbed it on his forehead and said a prayer, right? And he was fine, right? He goes home. He calls me back the next morning. He's like, bro, I don't know what you did to me, but I passed something this morning. I was like, I know. I said, I don't know what it is. I don't know why I feel it, but I do.
But you're helping others cleanse out.
Bro, that's what I do. That's my purpose. You know, my mentor told me, your purpose is that thing that which comes easy to you, that's usually hard for others. So I'm living in my purpose. I was shown how to cleanse the temple, how to repent, how to repair. Again, I'm not religious. I don't belong to any church. My family is Seventh-day Adventist, so if I was going to go to church, I would do that. But I don't even do that.
But because if you ascribe to no religion, but you still have a feeling, you understand and read people, like
the kingdom of God is within me.
Yeah.
So there's no need. You ever see people doing this? Where's my glasses? You know what I'm saying? Like they're looking for something that's already in them. Now the problem is if your temple,
but they're not doing it like
if
this.
your temple is filthy,
yeah,
no, because they're doing it here. Mm-hmm. They're not doing it here. If your temple is filthy, so this is what I believe: evil spirits and energies, they can't dwell in you, your flesh, but they can dwell in the filth in your flesh. But once you clear that filth out, now you're making more room for the Holy Spirit. And now they don't want to be there. That's why when I get around people who are harboring demons, we clash. Like just me being there. Just be standing, especially if I'm talking.
So if it's a demon
is just an evil negative vibration.
But negative vibration is low.
Movies make people think, exorcism and all that. Yeah. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about why are people so evil? Why are this war and all this type of stuff?
Yeah.
Most people who have tumors, that's a good thing because their body is harboring the toxin so it doesn't spread everywhere else.
Tony, have you ever done muscle testing before?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's how I found out that I had the worm.
So when you did the muscle testing, are you familiar with Dr. David Hawkins' work? Like
a little bit.
It's got like it's basically a chart of levels of consciousness. You start at 0 and you go up to 1,000.
Yeah.
And Jesus and different people, they calibrate at such a high level, right?
Yep.
No longer anger, apathy, but higher states of consciousness. And I think like the direction I was going with everything is that you seem to be in that higher space, right? Because
100%.
100%. And that's why I said the direction of like what you're talking about as a value, right? Not just pure authentic bliss, but would you not say that the one thing that connects all of your values once you got clean and pure is love?
Oh, well, now that you say that, when I was going through my situation before this happened, right? I was at a friend's house. And I literally, for a brief moment, I was telepathic. I could like see things that were going to happen. I mean, we were driving down the road and I could see cars coming that were miles away. It was the weirdest thing. And I was in my man's house and I know he was freaking out. And I had to talk to him. He called me to his house. He called me the next day and was like, man, are you okay? I said, listen, I was going through something. I'm good now. I said, but when you get to the point where you're getting ready to cross over or whatever, then let go of the old me. Because remember I told you I felt like I was dying. Yeah. The old me died. I literally was a totally different person from Sunday to Monday. Like you know what I'm saying? Like,
and if it's Sunday to Monday, more love, less love.
It was all love. So check this. I was wigging out in his house. I was about to leave. His wife was like, are you okay? And I was like, I think I got to get out of here. I feel evil energy, blah, 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 blah. And then I looked at her shirt, and her shirt says, everything is love. And I just melted. So yes, it is love. But that's what you feel. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel love for everyone.
But that's what I was trying to connect out with all the dots, and that, you know, I think, and this is I believe my life's work and purpose now is that when I uncover the story, if you look at like, and no person's path is a straight line. It's ups and downs, it's bending, you know, like veins in your body, like a river as well. But I think all the interconnected things from both whether it's seeing Orion's belt, to all the hard things, to the worms passing, to the parasites, to helping other people. Don't you think all of it is a connection of love?
100%. But that's the Christ consciousness. God is love. That's it. And that's what I'm trying to tell people. Stop looking on the outside, cleanse your temple, and it will show up. We say he, she, whatever. I'm just saying the creator, the source will show up, and you'll be like, oh my goodness. And so now I'm 58, right? And I realize that I'm mortal as far as the physical body. So now I'm just like, wow. You know, God revealed to me the other day He was going to give me at least another 30 years to finish what I'm trying to do. And so I'm praying for restoration every single day, because our cells replicate every single day. You know what I'm saying? And so now I'm taking in my nutrients, I'm meditating, and so now I feel like I'm getting younger. Like I told you, I did my biological age, and it said I was 20, and I was 54 years old, bro. And the doctor freaked out. He was like, bro, this don't even make no sense. But what I'm saying is that is possible.
On a simple side, rather than get too in the technical on testing, is that once you move from the place of less love to more love, all is love, that you actually got younger.
Yes.
They help more people.
Because aging is when your toxin level is. So when you're born, right? When you're born, you're 90% human and 10% microbiome. When you die, you're probably around 5 or 10% human and 90 to 95% microbiome. That means everything that you've picked up throughout your journey is now become your flesh. So if you become conscious of that, then you stop doing the stuff. Like, bro, I used to be high every single day for like 25 years straight. And I would stop for a week or two or a day or two. Now I have zero desire for it. And I love cannabis, but I'm like, I don't need it. You know what I'm saying?
And would you say no need for it? Is because now driving from your heart is that highest value of love in all that you do.
Well, the main reason why I think now is you can't hear God speaking when you're intoxicated. He'll be telling you, you'll feel weird, but you can't hear him. It's like the noise is too loud. And when I learned that, that's when I was like, okay, I'm not getting high no more.
So you got to get signal, and signal means removing the noise.
Exactly. It's like your radio station. If you back in the old days, we used to turn the knob and you had to line the little red line up with the number or the digital. Now they got digital, but if you're off one tick,
you're out.
You can't hear it.
And that signal you got to line up with is self being love, and self's like, how do I just get a little bit higher in my consciousness? Like strip away the poison, strip away the toxins. Bodybuilding, working out. Like get to that health piece. Health piece starts inside, building on the cells. And you're going to be tested, and you got to test yourself, right? That's part of it, what you said.
So when you embrace the Most High in your training and your nutrition and all that, you become beautiful. I'm not saying you might get better looking as far you are what you are, but what I'm saying is people can see your glowing. My aura, my energy. Like I have friends who are extremely well off, and they're just like, bro, your aura. When you walk into a room, it's like everybody has to stop and look at you. And he was like, that's you got to take advantage of that. I'm just like, in my whole life, I've never really even thought twice about it. I always tell people I'm vain as hell on the inside, but I don't really try to project it or make people, try to be an asshole to people. Because number one, my size. You know what I'm saying? Like. People say I'm intimidating or whatever, and I'm just like, bro, I'm not even. There's no malice in my heart. I could care less. I would never harm a flea. Well, yeah, I would harm a flea, but you know what I'm saying? Like I would never harm an animal or another human or anything like that.
It all ties back, I think, to that core piece of love. Like it really is all love that connects it all. And I think all those points of testing, like if you're substance abuse or building the shell, the bigger shell of the body and everything,
Yep.
you kind of hide away from it. But once you strip it all down, you went back down to 200 pounds, then to build up again. But you're building up again with the message of, you know, even though you don't believe in God in the ascribed religions that everyone has, dude, you
Well,
know,
I don't
there's a
believe in
message.
religion.
Religion, right?
In other words, religion is a construct. Somebody invented it, bro.
Yeah. Labels.
Jesus never talked about religion.
Right.
They created those religions after the fact. Buddhism, all those things, that's man-made. That's to control the people.
So if you were going through life now, you said you got this next 30 years, what's guiding you? For sure, it's the value of love and a purpose.
Well, I literally pray for God to take my feet. I say I offer myself as a living sacrifice. Take my feet, take me where you want me to go. Take my hands, show me what you want me to do. Take my mind, my eyes, everything, and let me glorify you. Again, I'm not a religious person. I'm human. I will curse. I will whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm working on that. But what I'm saying is it's a journey. It's not a light switch. It ain't gonna happen overnight. But in my heart, I want it to happen. And I love everyone. But I will knock a person out if I need to. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm a good guy. I'm not a nice guy. I used to think I was a nice guy, but I'm not. I control myself because I'd be wanting to choke the, you know what I'm saying? But I'm learning to live in the spirit and not let things bother me the same way.
The way to work on in that is you just got to get in the gym and take that 20-pound weight.
You know what I'm saying?
And focus.
So those 7 years where I wasn't training, it was hard. I wasn't stable. So that's the gym. Basically, you see, when we was done, we was done. You know what I'm saying? Like when you train like that, it's over. And so now whatever you was holding in, you released it.
When you train, you release it. But that connection is another form of love, right? That's
100%.
You're
I
in that
love
zone.
it.
And
I love it and hate it. Yes, sir.
And you can see everyone looking, right? And what they're looking, it's the body.
They're trying to. What they're trying to do is they're trying to understand what they're looking at.
What are they looking at here?
They were like,
but it's an energy form.
They were like, wait a minute, they don't how, and then watching me transform right in front of them.
Yeah, and they saw the muscles go up like that,
Yep.
and I was like, wow. And that was my intention going through today with you, Tony. Was I was like, I bet the driving force and everything he does is driven by love.
100%.
Would that be right?
And
I think
1,000%.
I was driving it like.
You know, it's funny that you say that because that's how simple it is.
That's how simple it is.
So I'm thinking, I'm like, what is he trying to get me? But it really is. Because you have to understand, I remember when the doctor told my wife, she was like, we can heal you. And I'm like, there's like a record scratching because that's not even in their agenda. And that's when I knew, after the fact, that's when I knew she was already healed. When we shrunk, like I said, when it was shrunk and all that, I'm like, she's already healed. And after I told her, before we started, I said, baby, this is your body. I said, but I'm your husband. I said, I'm going to make sure that you're healthy so you can survive whatever you decide to do. And I'm going to turn it over to you. I passed her the baton. I said, it's on you now. Because God showed me. I was good.
Because you love her.
Because I love her. Yeah. And she was like, I remember, never forget the first day she came home from chemo. And her adrenaline was up, you know what I'm saying? And then like 3 days later, it really hit her hard. And I was just like, damn. Because she went from vibrant, her blood work was perfect. I'm just like, babe, but there's nothing I can do. And I know that, it's all set up like that. And so, like I said, my goal was just to get her healthy, just like all the other people who call me with it. I'm like, listen, I'm going to tell you how to get healthy, and then you go do what you got to do because that part is on you. Because
everyone's on their own journey. Right? You could show them the
I'm
door.
a fitness expert, so I am qualified to show you how to be healthy. But what you do after that is on you because it's work, bro. It's work. It ain't no.
You got to show them the door. Yeah. They're the ones that have to walk through it.
That's it.
You're like Morpheus.
Yeah,
You're Morpheus walking through the gym.
Exactly.
Showing the door. Don't know you are.
Yep.
Don't think you are. Know you are.
Like what I did with you on the leg extension yesterday.
Oh man, that was actually the piece that did to me. So, and you actually said it as well. It's in the little things you do.
It's details.
And don't you think love is in the details?
Yes, of course.
And
when you look at a flower or you look at, people just, I don't believe in God. There's no proof. And I'm just like, wow, that's crazy to hear.
There's nothing more beautiful than the rose, right? When you smell a rose,
bro,
that's a form of love.
Just how you plant a seed or plant your seed in a woman and have a baby. Like, come on, bro.
Right?
How could that possibly be random?
Exactly. And so I think it all comes down to love. And that's what got me yesterday is when we did the leg exercise, He said, make the feet loose, lighten up. It's this little tweak, right? These little
Because you're training quads, you're not doing leg extensions. You're just using the leg extension to train your quads. Everybody's in the gym doing exercise. You see all those machines in that gym? How many machines did we use today?
2.
That's it. The last 2 exercises. And that's because somebody was on the other apparatus that I wanted.
No, I felt
you know what I'm saying?
I felt so good. And then
there's literally 1,000 pieces of equipment in Beano's. I don't need none of it. It's awesome. It's cool. It's like playing with toys and whatnot. But to really train, if you're focused on form and function, and you're trying, and I'm doing art, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know this is art. When people look at me, I know. I used to tell people all the time, I don't need you to tell me I look good. I need you to tell me what's wrong. My mirror works just fine. I know I look good, but that's not the point. I'm trying to work on what I need to work on.
Get the feedback to be a bit better than you were before, right?
I'm like, I don't need other people to tell me I look good. I need somebody in my life to say, hey man, you need to tighten up. That's what I need. You know what I'm saying?
And that's actually been the journey.
Iron. That's when you hear iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
That's the person that's giving you friction. That's my wife. I call her the governor, right? Because I'm a high performance machine, and she's my governor. She kept me from blowing my gaskets or lighting myself on fire. I used to go on tour. I'd come back with $100,000 in cash and, hand it to her. And she'd be like, oh, can you take out the trash for me? Or can you go walk you know what I'm saying? Like, she always kept me grounded.
I really heard a beautiful analogy like that. So it's almost like the fastest cars in the world. Everyone says it's the engine, right? So when you look at a Bugatti, you say
it's the driver, bro.
A driver. But also they say it's the brakes. Because the carbon fiber brakes.
True.
So, if you take let's say a Tesla, right, compared to a Bugatti. Bugatti goes faster. It's not the engine that makes it go faster. It's the brakes that give you the confidence to go faster. And so what are the brakes that we need in life to give us the confidence to slow down? Yeah. So for you, it's your wife who's the governor. Yeah. She gives you those brakes to slow down so you can go faster, but we all need brakes. And I think a life without brakes, a life without love means you're going to have a lot of things come up, right? And don't you think the brakes and love in your life?
The scariest thing in the world is getting what you actually want. You know what I'm saying? Like
what you need, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you have this, I want this, and then you get it, and then it destroys you. Because that's what happened. I mean, think about it. So many people get what they want, wealth, riches, all that, and it destroys them. It almost got me, bro.
Yeah. And now you're in this place and we just met each other to have this deeper conversation. Yeah. Right, and I thank you for allowing me to plug in and be like, where's it coming? Where's it coming from?
Yeah.
But I think love comes in all these different forms. You got the brakes that need to be applied in the life, the testing, the challenges, the repenting, meeting the different people along the way.
Yep, authentic love is what it is. Real love, not vocal love, not I bought you something. No, love is when you can tell somebody they're wrong or whatever. And my wife always said, "Ain't what you say is how you say it." But really, if you're authentic, if you authentically love and care, you know what I'm saying. I always tell people, if you want to be great, first thing you got to do is you got to give a damn. Yeah, that's the first thing you got to do. You got to care. So if you care, you know, in other words, like we hear all these talks about bodybuilding now. Everybody's having this, the old school and the new school and all that type of stuff. I'm like, these guys want what they want. And the crazy thing about it is that all the resources are available. If you want to gain 100 pounds in a year, there's the formula's already been done. The
resources there.
You know what I'm saying?
The question is if you're really resourceful from a place of love with the brakes being applied in life. And then I think one of the interesting things I've seen with you, Tony, is that you had good mentors along the way.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Find the good mentors that have walked the path,
100%.
that could give you good encouragement and say, okay. And then 20, 30 years on your life, you can call you back and be like, hey, what's up? Let's connect.
That's what I'm trying to say.
And isn't that a form of love itself? The relationship lasts time because it's love. Yep. So I think all the connecting dots in your life, would you say are all linked back to love?
I mean, to in this moment, everything.
Yeah, because we actually met and we were like, I saw you and I said, hey, I want to learn from you today. We learned, you didn't ask me anything. And then we said, we should do a podcast. Okay, when? Let's make it happen now. Yep. Called around, 30 minutes later, take a shower, took a cold plunge. Let's come in from the gym and here we are. Yep. To come back to that same point, it's all about love. Yep. What was the shirt? What did the shirt say? With the lady?
It said, everything is love. It freaked me out when I saw that, but it literally melted me. I was like wigging out, and then I saw that, and she was like, "You okay? You okay?" And then when I saw her shirt, I just calmed down. She was like, she kind of did like this, like.
What was her name?
She saw it flip.
Can't remember.
I can't remember her name.
But you remember
I just remember the shirt. It was the I'm literally raging in her house, and she's standing in front of me like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, and then I saw the shirt, and I literally just.
So isn't that interesting that everything else is gone?
Yep.
The noise, whatever the person was, but the signal is love. That's what you remember.
Yep. You have to understand the evil energy, frequency, demon, whatever you want to call it. When they get found out, they react, and that's what people, personalities, the schizophrenia, all that type of stuff is, bro. I'm telling you, I ain't telling you what I heard. I'm telling you what I know. That's what it is. Period. So if you have anybody who you love and you see them going through stuff, tell them to fast for a couple of days, and then when they start fasting, that it's gonna amplify. But that's your signal saying that is what it is.
And sometimes you have to cleanse to get.
I got pictures of parasites this long, pictures in my phone right now. I'm telling you. And after they passed, I felt like a freaking angel. Before that, I was ready to kill people, literally.
Wow,
it's crazy, bro.
That's amazing.
It's crazy,
brother. I love this conversation today.
Yeah, this is what I do, bro. That's what I do.
I think it's the start of a good friendship.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is Toney Freeman, the X-Man. I hope you enjoyed what was revealed to you through me. And,
which is what?
Just everything is love. It's like, be your authentic self. The kingdom of God is within you. You don't go looking. Don't go to church. Don't go to preachers. Look within yourself. Meditate. I just learned how to meditate. I used to try to meditate, and I couldn't meditate. Couldn't quite quiet my mind. What helps me, I get the little blackout things, and I just lay still, lay on my back, and I don't try to sit in a certain way. I just lay there in the bed, comfortable, and I just kind of zone out. And usually I'll fall asleep and start dreaming. I didn't even tell you about my dreams. Unbelievable. So, yeah, that's it. I just, be your authentic self. The kingdom of God is within you, and just try to love. It's hard. It's really hard. Some people may not even deserve it, but when you can love somebody that doesn't deserve it, that's when you're really growing.
Wow. So thank you, Toney.
You're welcome, bro. Thank you.
Do I look in that one and say, so I just end the podcast? Okay, so this is Tony Nicholson here, having spoken with Toney Freeman, and on the journey of being an entrepreneur, going from personal training, fitness, film, back to school, I've come to this conclusion that everything starts with your highest value that drives all your decisions, the good and the bad, and that my highest value is love, and that when talking to people that have been through an incredible journey, as I've seen here with Toney Freeman, that all the highs and lows and everything connected comes back to love and being your most authentic self, and that the growth happens in it, and it's a daily challenge. It takes work.
It's hard. Yes,
actually, the best things come from it, but you have to go through the hardest challenges. And if you can just hold on to that piece, which is that moment where you said everything is love on the shirt, that's where growth happens. And I experienced so much growth to you today in both your story and in the training as well, in those very small details. Yep. So love is in the detail. I appreciate you, bro. And
all right, brother, for sure. We'll definitely be doing this again.
Yeah.